This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, happy Friday. This is day 4 of Qdabra's FormsViewer training class, version 4.1. Really happy that you could all be here. My name is Patrick, and today Curry and Joanne have some demos for you, and we'll do a quick recap and talk about yesterday's content. Kirby, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Patrick, I can hear you fine.
Once again, this class is brought to you by Kirby and her team. Kirby, Joanne, and Dawn have been instrumental in making this class available, the labs, the demos. Many of the labs and demos are based on work we've done in the last 6 months, the webinars, some of which Mel Clemente has been instrumental in helping create. So I just want to do a shout out. It's really great that Kirby and Joanne and Dawn and Mel have put so much effort into this, and without that effort, we wouldn't be able to present this class to you today. Today is day 4. We're talking about 3 techniques: pop-ups, overlays, and image scaling. And these are not new techniques. These techniques were discussed also in our January class. They're so popular that we're talking about them again. Typically in the class, we will talk about some new things and some very popular things. So we'll talk today about how to prompt users for input with the pop-up dialog. This is something that is not supported in InfoPath, but FormsViewer supports it with the simple QRules command. It looks okay. It's not great, but it's good when you're wanting to tell somebody that something was successfully submitted, for example. Then we're going to talk about overlays, and this is a much nicer technique. It's a little more work to implement, but you've got a lab. You'll have a demo here. It makes the forms look really good, and we've actually demoed this already along with prompting earlier in the week. You might have seen pop-ups. You might have seen overlays when they did the auto logout on Tuesday. Anyway, we're going to show you how to do that in the second lab, and there'll be a demo. Joanne is going to be presenting, I believe. Kirby is demoing that. Sorry, Kirby. Sorry, Joanne. And then lastly, when you're submitting images from your cell phones, and they're large, typically images from cell phones these days can be 10 megabytes or more, unless you're using a flip phone from 1998, which probably doesn't even have a camera. But those early Nokia phones had a camera. So it's really important to scale that image down, especially if you're taking lots of images, because of the latency, the bandwidth delays of submitting images. So you're going to be uploading those images to a library. Probably they're like receipts for an expense report, or maybe there's something else, like you're going around taking inventory, taking photos of machinery, whatever. There's lots of scenarios where photos are really important. And we'll show you how to scale those images down so that it's easier to upload them without having to wait. And then we have these 3 demos to show you those techniques today. I do want to start off, though, with a quick quiz. And let's just see. I'm only going to pick on people who were here yesterday, because I know that some people missed yesterday and they came back today. Brock, it seemed like you were there for a while yesterday. I don't know if you are here today. It looks like you are. Great. Do you want to answer the first question?
Sure. I got my mic working now.
Yay.
Yeah. Let's see. A dashboard. I guess in a simple way that I kind of have it in my head is it's a report, and it shows information in different ways. You can, I guess it's like if things need attention, you can format it to, get your attention with different colors and things like that. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's that's a great way of saying it. It's an active kind of report. Here's what you got to focus on. You're over the speed limit. Your oil needs checking. Whatever you have in the dashboard. but for forms, it's like which forms are overdue, and what's the average, I don't know, delay on the processing. I mean, you can put all that stuff in a dashboard. There's a couple different technologies. This is a bonus follow-up question. We talked about the technology. We demoed FormsViewer, using FormsViewer to create web pages. What are other ways that you can create a dashboard in SharePoint today? And I'm really talking about SharePoint Online. And let's throw that question to Caroline. Maybe you're on-prem, Caroline, so I'm sorry, I shouldn't bug you about this. So is Chris. Lynn, thanks for being here. I'm sorry once again about the confusion about whether the class is free or not. Hopefully it said it in my notes, but I know sometimes it can assume that things aren't free. Do you have audio? Do you want to answer this quick quiz? I know you weren't here yesterday, but it's kind of a generic question. And maybe I'll switch to Shane. So it looks like Lynn doesn't have audio. So Shane, what's another way to create a dashboard in SharePoint Online?
Using web pages other than a form.
Yeah, yep, and you can use Power BI. That's what I'm really looking for in that bonus question. And Power BI is something that you can use in modern sites. So it is a modern library kind of deal. If you don't have if your library is classic, you're not going to be able to embed a Power BI in it. Actually, I think you can via a different kind of like if you have an iframe, you can put a web part on a classic page too. So it's not impossible, but with FormsViewer, you can enable those modern views. So your library can be modern. You can have Power BI widgets on top of the library. And we did a few quick demos of Power BI yesterday, and we were able to edit the video, Sheree, so your phone number, even though it wasn't a personal phone number, was fuzzed out. Also, yesterday, I think there's an article in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times about how people should not be giving out their cell phones anymore, which is like your social security number. So next question, I think we just covered the first two. The reason to use FormsViewer for your dashboard is simply that it's an easy way to create a web page using a WYSIWYG editor. So we're still using Infopath Designer. We will be hopefully, having FormsViewer Designer allow you to edit canvases by the end of the year. We're working hard on that right now. So the FormsViewer Designer will supplant or will be your go-to in the future. But right now, we're still using the Infopath Designer, which is a WYSIWYG canvas, and you can create a web page in it. You don't have to write code. You don't have to learn a new technology like Power BI, and it's to do. So let's ask a question out to you. How do you make dates look natural? And I'm going to pick on Shree.
Hi. Hello?
Yep. Thanks for being here, Shree. Sorry to pick on you.
No, that's fine. I mean, how to make, when you're trying to pick, get server time or something, it's not in the format we usually need. So we use some of those of the Qdabra, Q rules. I'm just,
yep.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't remember the command. Yeah.
You're fine. You're fine. The format date command can help
you
take
format
that.
date command. Yes. Yeah.
Ugly XML date. The 2019-0.
The T something. Yeah.
Yeah, the T in it. Lately, I've been signing documents in the XML format, and my wife's looking at me like, "What are you doing? You don't do that. It's month/day/year," and I'm like doing year-date month-year or -date.
Oh, okay.
Great, thanks. And then the last question: what do you need to add to your forms for validation? And Sri, I'll come back to you on this one too.
Okay. Yeah, I've not done a lab on this one, but
this is a tricky question, actually.
no. It's just that yeah, I didn't get the time to do the lab yesterday on this one too.
No worries. No
But
worries.
yeah,
So let's ask Brock. Brock, do you have audio? Do you want to type in your answer? And then if you're not, I will ask Kirby. Kirby?
Yes, Patrick. So for validation, you can add a combination of the validation rules and formatting rules in order to use the new commands in FormsViewer, the get errors count, and the clear errors.
Great. Okay, so that's a quick quiz. So any other questions from yesterday? Or we'll take a quick quiz, or take a quick survey at the end, and ask you for your feedback for the week along for today. But I think we'll just jump into demos next. And for first up is going to be Kirby. If you do have questions, I'm lurking in the background here. I'll be watching chat while we're doing demos. If something piques your curiosity and you have a question, please don't hesitate to throw it into the chat window. Kirby?
Yes. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So for lab 1, I'm going to demo the QRules prompt command. So I believe most of you are already familiar with InfoPath's dialog boxes. As you can see, you can add that by selecting this show a message, and you add a message here. So when you open that in FormsViewer, it'll show you this kind of message, which is good. But FormsViewer currently supports a better alternative for that dialog boxes, and we use that by using the prompt command. So I'm going to show you a sample prompt command or a pop-up from FormsViewer. So here I've already filled out an expense report form, and I'm gonna click submit. And as you can see, this is the pop-up that I'm talking about. So it has here a title and the text message that you want to show to the user, and a yes and a no options if they want to submit the form as final or not. So if we try to click no, then it won't proceed in submitting the form. So sometimes users click the wrong button, and we want to provide them a way to cancel, so that the rules behind that button won't be executed. So having the ability to prompt users and provide them with options, we can prevent the users from clicking the buttons by mistake. So let's proceed with clicking yes. And I'm going to show you another prompt here. So it's now taking a few seconds to submit. There we go. So as you can see, I've added a different title here, information, and this text form is successfully submitted, and a different button here for the OK button. So you can use this pop-ups to inform users that the form is successfully submitted.
Or if it printed out a PDF, which is why I think it took a little longer. So you had a PDF going in the background. Hey, one more comment here, Kirby. One more comment is on the that expense report form in the middle there with the pop-up, the little blue dot, which is not Earth, but anyway. So this guy here, the only way you can get the default InfoPath functionality to show up is to switch your form to filler And many of you may have forms that are in the browser mode, which makes sense if you're on InfoPath Form Services, but since we're now replacing InfoPath with FormsViewer, we're not limited to the functionality in the browser. You can actually use the functionality in the filler. So this is, I think, an important point. If you do have forms you're upgrading to FormsViewer, you can move the compatibility setting back to filler. Could you show them in the designer, Kirby, where that setting is? Underneath File. I'll show you. So it's underneath. Go to File, Form Operative. Go to File, and then there's Form Options at the bottom. And if you look at the compatibility, you'll see that Kirby has it set to filler. If she tries to set it to browser, which is likely what you have your forms set at if you're migrating them from InfoPath Form Services to FormsViewer, then that option to display a dialog box won't appear in your rule actions. So if you don't see that, just remember this comment that you just need to change your compatibility to filler. And since you're using FormsViewer, filler's fine because we're using FormsViewer, and FormsViewer supports a couple things that are in the InfoPath Forms fillers that were not supported in the browser. One of those is placeholder text. So if you have a field and you want to put like a placeholder text on it, so when they click into it, they see kind of a shadow text explaining what the field is, and they click into it and they can type over it, right? That placeholder text is a feature that is supported in FormsViewer. The pop-up is another feature, and there's a few others things that are in the filler that are not supported by InfoPath browser, the web browser, but they are by FormsViewer. So just keep that in mind. Sorry.
Thanks, Patrick. So I'm now going to show you how to build the prompt command. So here we can go to Design and to open the Forms Designer. And here under Command Builder, let's search for the prompt command. So as you can see, it shows us the description for that command. And there are 3 key parameters for the prompt command. First is the title. So this title is the one that we saw earlier, the attention and the information. So let's try that. And for the text, this is the text that you want to display to the user. So let's say, are you sure you want to submit? And next is the type. So this is where you select whether you want the option yes or no, yes, no, cancel, okay, cancel, or okay. So another good thing about this command is that you can customize the options that users can select, unlike the InfoPath dialog boxes where you only have the OK button to click. So let's just select yes, no. And once you're done with that, you can just copy that to clipboard and go back to your form. So as you can see here under this, in this submit button, I've already added that. Wait, I think this is the wrong form. I'm gonna open the end form here that is included in the package. And here in the submit button, I've added the show prompt here. So this is added after the validation rules here and before the form starts submitting the values to your library. So here, just paste it in here. As you can see, I've already pasted that. And I just added another rule here that when the result node of the Qdabra rules is equal to false, meaning if the user selects the no option from the pop-up, then it won't proceed with the submission. And then I've also added the the other pop-up here in form logic. Here's in a submit. In this success rule, I've got this prompt here. The information form is successfully submitted.
One more quick comment here, and that is just to remind people. Can you click that again, Kirby, and show that again? Thanks. Just want to remind people once again that there is a difference between pasting directly into the value field and clicking the FX. You want to click the FX if there's a field that you're going to be using in the comment or in the pop-up. So, for example, you can actually have concat and the quote and this the prompt and all that stuff, and then you can have a what do you call it, a dynamically derived field as part of your text. You can do that, right? But you do have to turn it into a concat and add, you know, like Kirby's doing right here, a field in the middle. If you don't have any fields that you're adding to the message, then you just can paste it directly into the value. You don't need to worry about going into FX.
Yeah. So that's how you add the prompt using this function, the formula box here. So yeah, that's it for the prompt command demo, Patrick.
Great. Let's just, any questions from, Lynn's got a question. When changing compatibility from InfoPath, does that mean even if users do not have FormsViewer, they can view the form? Yeah, totally. If you change to the filler from the web browser, then the FormsViewer supports that, so you don't have to worry about any kind of visibility issues. In fact, Kirby, do you have the ability to just republish this? There's a one error here in the command. Can you add a space after the text equals form and just show them what this looks like again? I know it's going to take another minute or two, but if you can just show the compatibility setting to filler, and then just go ahead and publish or upload this again if you can. Yeah, you had the right filler. You had the filler set. That's good. You got it correct. So just leave it filler and then click OK. And can you just change the action one more time here to just go back to the action that was success and click on the command and just change the add a space after the form text. And then just can you upload this and just test it real quick? Is that possible?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Just
to show Lynn that forms with the InfoPath filler compatibility setting will work just fine in FormsViewer, and everyone can see them just fine. And we'll also show this concat thing working too, because I think that's kind of cool. A little bonus item. Since it's so easy to upload.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna love this. I think one of the biggest improvements just in the whole form design process is the fact that, as you just saw, the upload took less than a second for Kirby from the Philippines. And so it's so easy to just upload changes, test them out, and it's even faster if you got on-prem. And so we should see that form name with the sample in it show up. Now the form is generating a PDF, so it does take a few extra seconds here because the PDF gets generated on the server. The server only does two things. It does, so there you go, there's the form name too. Great, Kirby, awesome. So that's an example of dynamically adding a field to your pop-up. I was just going to say that the form server, this QFS-formsco.com, the provider-hosted app, which is very similar to Microsoft's Power Apps or Flow, in the sense that the service is offering up the feature here, which is FormsViewer. The FormsViewer service, QFS.formsco.com, just does two things. The first thing it does is it sends the XSN to the client. So if you open your form from a browser, from a tablet PC or whatever Surface device, it's going to send that XSN down. And then the client has the app installed and it's all running on the client. So unlike InfoPath Form Services, all the rendering, all of the rules, all the logic happens on the client. So the server is only used to send the template down to the client, your browser, or to generate the PDF. Those are the two things it does. It doesn't store any data. It only we do store the XSN, the template, on the FormsViewer service, qfs.formsco.com. But there's no personal information. There's nothing other than the template, and the PDF has to be generated on the server because there's a lot of processing that has to happen. So those are the only two things that the service does. If you're running on-prem, which I know several of you are, Caroline and Brock and Chris, that process of generating the PDF and of, it's going to happen a lot faster because you're not having to go across data centers. You're just basically all within the same farm, or whatever it is, server farm. So Kirby, let's quickly, I don't think we have any other questions, but let's ask Brock, because I know Brock was really interested in these two features, if he has any comments for us.
I think the main comment I have is I already know how I'm going to use them now that I know how.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. Let's show you the more cool technique. Kirby, let's switch and do demo number 2. Today's going to be a short class. We're going to just zoom through these demos. We'll give you some time to the labs, and we'll lurk in the background. But I don't even know if we're going to have time to take a break. We're going to go so fast today, Kirby. Get you out of.
Okay, so for the next lab, I'm going to demo the overlay technique. So I'm going to show you that in a minute. So this is a more advanced pop-up that we can build using FormsViewer together with CSS and JavaScript. So this is the sample the same expense report dashboard that we've demoed to you yesterday. And as you can see here, the filters are now gone because those are the sections that we're going to use for the overlays. So if we click on this one, the search icon here, it's going to show you this cool overlay here where the background is darker, and you have the modal here where you can select the filters. I'm not sure why it's not showing. Let's try another one. Okay, there we go. All right, so if we try to click the date filters, let me just remove this. And this is a date filter for August. Same, it's an overlay again. And as you can see, it shows the same results here. So I'm going to show you now how you can add those to your forms. So going back to the package, here we have the expense report starter form and also the end form. You've also got the guide on how you can apply the overlay technique. And next is we have these icons here, the close icon and the search icon here, to be used as the picture buttons in our form. And we also got the overlay CSS. There we go. And the script, the JS script that activates the overlay technique.
Just two lines of code.
Yeah. So there we go. So I'm gonna show you now the end form on how we did that.
And that overlay script can be used, I think, for any form. It's not specific to this sample. I believe that's correct. I mean, we should test to that compared to the expense report or maybe one of the other forms where we have an overlay. I just want to also call out that what you saw the splash screen when Kirby opened, you saw the nice picture of the person in the background. That's also something that we showed on day 1 with Joanne did a demo showing how to add the CSS file with a background image. I think so many of you will remember that image in the very far background where you see the person typing on a numeric pad, doing some numbers or whatever. That image is in the other CSS. There's actually two CSS files in this form. There's the styles.css, which controls the look and feel of the form, and then there's which makes it responsive and things like that. I don't know how responsive this form is, Kirby. Maybe you can scrunch it down a little bit and just show that it is actually doing something, or maybe it isn't that responsive. Yeah, it is responsive. So it's trying to scrunch the columns down. That's a great example of the fact that this form does have that other CSS in it with the background image.
So here's the end form, and we've added at the bottom a new section for the overlay section. So I've added here a calculated value that we'll be using later on when we're editing the XSL file for this form.
Can you show them how to add that?
Okay, sure. So to add this calculated value here, oops, sorry about that alarm.
Yes, as you can see, Kirby, you can just right-click the controls there and add a calculated value. For those of you who haven't used calculated values before, they're useful in two different ways. This is not the main way that you're going to use them. In fact, if you were on the call yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, I think Joanne showed how to add calculated values to forms to make something like the paging work faster. So the dashboard actually has calculated values in it as well. So you've got a lot of data you want to display. Calculated values are useful there. And in this second case, we're using a calculated value mainly as a placeholder so that we can find the section when we have to edit the XSL. So this technique, this overlay technique, as we said earlier, is slightly more complex than the pop-up because you do have to go in to the view and make one really simple change. And the way we make that change is using this placeholder text that we code into the calculated value. Kirby, do you have audio?
That's right. So yeah, and I've also added a formatting rule here that always hides that calculated field there. So I just click expression and just add some dummy data, just one here.
Yeah, and this is really important because you don't want to display the placeholder, right? You're just using the placeholder so you can find those two overlay sections, those two sections down below in your view. Your view file is this really hard to read XSL file that's part of your template. And she's going to go in there and edit that, and that's why we put the placeholder in there so it's easy to search and find the overlay section so you can add your one piece of thing that you need to connect it to the overlay, the CSS in the JavaScript file. Thanks.
Right. So after that, I've also added a new field here under form logic called overlay. This is for hiding and showing the sections here. So here I've added a picture button, the search button that I've showed you earlier, and I gave it a meaningful name here for the ID so that I can search it as well in the XSL file later. Overlay search, and when this is clicked, it is setting the overlay field here with search value, and then same with the filter, the date filter here. I've also added this ID for the date filter and another rule to set the overlay to the value date filter. And then for the sections below, as you can see here, I've added a formatting rule that hides it when the overlay is not equal to search. And same with the date filter, it hides the section when the overlay field is not equal to date filter. So once you're done adding those rules, you can start exporting. Oops, sorry. You can start exporting the source files by going to Publish and then click Export Source Files here. So I'm just going to create here a sample folder where we can store those source files from our form template. And then going back to this source folder, I'm going to find the XSL file that we need to update.
All the file, all the things that are in your template. You're showing the images, all the CSS files, and a bunch of other things. And so you may be looking at these multiple versions of these XSD files, and this is actually a bug in InfoPath where it stores previous versions of these XSD files, and so you can clean this up. It's not necessary because these are all very small files, but there is still a defect in the InfoPath Designer where it doesn't actually delete the old schemas very consistently. So just ignore that. That's just a bug. It does look weird, but what we're really going to focus on, what Kirby's going to show are these three views at the bottom. There's a view for the debug and the upgrade and the pagination, and then you've also got those are your three views. So it must be the first one. Is it 6 pagination?
Yeah, this is the view that we need to edit.
Usually it's called view. Why is it called 6 pagination?
Yeah, because I believe this is the expense report dashboard that Joanne used yesterday, so I believe it was updated, and I'm not sure why it's now saying view 1 here, but in the XSL file it shows this 6 pagination
That's
name.
Really strange. The last view that you saw there, the upgrade view, that's not in the view menu because the upgrade.xslt, if you remember from day 1, is used to upgrade previous versions of the form, and that's what we use to do the save and clear. So it's just those 2 views.
Yeah, and the debugs XSL here is pertaining to this other view here. So this should be the correct view to update. So to update this, you can use Notepad++, and then now we need to search for the overlay calculated field that we just added in our form, and there we go. So the reason why we added that it is to search for the mode here. So search for the mode that is enclosing this part of this calculated field here. So in this case, it is mode _14. So copy that and find it again in the form. And as you can see, there are 2 instances here. So this is the one that we're looking for. And then when you so I've added here div ID, 2 div IDs. So first is the overlay. So this pertains to the overlay, the darker side of our form when we this one, and the overlay section pertains to this one. So the CSS file, search for these IDs in order to apply the design for those sections.
Can you show them the CSS file too?
Yeah, this is this CSS file, and as you can see here, we've declared the overlay ID and the overlay section. So the design for the overlay are these. So if you know how to create your own, you can customize this, by the way. Yeah, so if you know a little bit about CSS, you can do a bunch of updates here in the CSS file. So yeah, so there's your CSS file.
The transparency. Sorry, it's curious to go back to that for a second. On the background color, that 0.5, is that the transparency?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
It's the background color. And yeah. So after that, we also added this closing tags here for the divs. And after that, we also need to find the overlay buttons that we
one
just
more
added.
question. Sorry, Kirby, are they
Okay.
going to have to add these divs? What's the before and after? So do they have to add the overlay div themselves, or is it already in the form?
Yeah, they need to add this because I've used the end form. That's why it's it's already in here. But
Can you show them what it looks like in the start form, just maybe side by side?
Yeah, okay, sure. So I'm now opening the starter form, and let's create another folder here. Click publish, export source files.
Yeah, it's kind of, this is a tricky technique, and it's good to really kind of explain what's going on here, because this is something that is much more involved, for lack of a better word, than the other techniques, because there is some of this XSL coding involved. Now, it's not like you're writing real code, but because we give you the snippets and whatnot, but you do have to go into this messy XSL file and add this stuff. Kirby?
Yeah, so right now I'm searching for the overlay calculated field, but I remember that since this is the starter form, it doesn't have the field yet. So let's add it first there so we can show you the mode. Okay, I'm gonna add the calculated field. Click OK, right click, select properties, text, delete section, apply, and formatting. Click expression, add one, hide, and save. And I think it's now in here. Wait, let's go back and just reload the XSL. And if we try to search for the overlay section again, it should now be in here. Okay. So as you can see, here's the calculate field. Let's search for the mode again in this XSL. So this is the only one, the only part of that file in the starter form. There's no overlay section IDs here.
But the good news is that they don't have to create this. They can just search and find where it's referenced, and then just add the overlay around that, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we can just add div ID equal overlay, and so this is the end tag for this apply templates. So let's just put this in here and add the closing tag for this one, and another div ID for the overlay section. Overlay. And then another closing tag for that. Okay, so that's how you enclose these mode with the IDs here for the CSS.
That looks great. Thanks for doing that. I think that's, I know people, that was valuable to people because it
Yeah.
isn't that hard to do, but it is tricky the first time you do it. And once you get the hang of it, it's really easy. But so just to recap, you're going to search for the tag, the placeholder text, the overlay space section, so the / overlay. You look at the mode that's above that, and then you search for that mode, and that's where you're going to add these two divs, these overlay and overlay section divs.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions on that? I know it's a little bit, I mean, this is like an advanced topic, right? I mean, Brock, since you're the one that's gung ho about this stuff, can you be the guinea pig and tell us what you think?
Well, I think this could be really useful because you can enter data and things like that with it. That'll be huge, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. In fact, we didn't even mention that, but you can actually have all kinds of sections that pop up in enter data, and you don't have to actually have them scroll in the form. You can just have the overlays pop up one at a time. And that's something that we don't do a lot in our forms. We do have forms that have data, but that's a great comment because there's a lot of potential here. And we normally use this as kind of either a filter or an indicator. But yeah, I mean, you could add sections that you enter data in, and it could be, yeah, I mean, that's great.
This conference will now be recorded.
I think we have everyone except for Brock. And since we're recording, I think we should have him soon. Yeah, I don't know who was the music person, Sri. It's kind of strange because, like Shane said, if somebody's called in, you'll see a phone number, and he was the only one that was called in. So, I have no idea what happened, really. This is the first time that has ever happened to us. So once again, I'm sorry about the technical issue, but it seems like we have everyone back except Brock. And Brock, Brock's not here yet. So Kirby, can you just sort us off again? And then I think you were pretty much done showing things working. Maybe what you could do is just quickly change the overlay section to, I don't know, change the CSS to using a different transparency or something, and show them how the changes are reflected when you open up the form. And in fact, I would kind of be curious to see if that last 0.5 value controls the transparency. Do you want to just try to change that to like 0.25 or something like that, and see if there's a difference? And then I'm going to email Brock again and see if he can come back to us. Go ahead and start if you want. Oh, great, we got Brock back. That's great. So Brock, we just started up again here, and Kirby's going to show how to changing the overlay actually does change how it looks. And we're going to do a quick CSS customization as a bonus demo, and you should be able to see Kirby's screen. Yeah, I can see your screen, Kirby. Great.
So now I'm going to change the background color. So this is the current sample form for the overlay, and let's try to change this to 0.2, and let's see what that looks like in the web browser. Save this as another overlay CSS.
I think it might also be good to show people how to reconstitute the XSN after they've published it out as source files. That might be a good thing to show too. Did you hear that, Kirby?
Sorry, Patrick, what did you
Yeah,
mention?
it would be good to show people how to reconstitute the XSN. So after they've published the source files, they have to save as XSN, right? To bring them all
Yeah.
back together. So if you can show them that, that would also be a good thing to show.
Yeah, okay. So going back to the source file here, I'm gonna update the overlay CSS. Wait, let me just, okay, there we go. Update this one, 2.2. Save that. And once that is saved, we need to search for the manifest XSN file here. So open that to the in design mode and save our file. Save it as and let's see if that will work.
Yeah, so that save step is really important because once you've extracted all of the pieces of your template into a folder, you can then edit the XSLT, which you need to do to add that two divs in for the overlay and the overlay section. And you need to be able to package it up again into that XSN, and you can see there. Wait, hold on.
Yeah, so yeah, it looks different. So the one that we updated is a bit lighter. So here's the updated one.
Can you switch between them? Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Awesome.
Yeah. So it changes the transparency or the opacity of our overlay here.
Opacity. What a wonderful word that is for Friday.
Yeah. I think that's another term for that, but I'm not sure.
Here at Qdabra, we try to be transparent, but every once in a while you have to demo opacity. So, great. Thanks, Kirby.
All right. So, aside from that, I also want to show you on how the button works. You can see it activates the JS file that we just added also in the form. So to do that, go back to the view. Oh, sorry. Go back to the view and search for the overlay search button. So there we go. So I just added here the on click property here and added the on value so that our JS file here will work. And for the exit button or the close button, I just added the on click equals off value. So once that's done, go back to your manifest and save that as your form. So Brock has a question here. The JS file needs to be loaded on form load still, correct? Yep. So to do that, you need to, so here's our form, and you need to import these two files here included in the package, the overlay CSS and overlay .js file. So as you can see, they are added here as resource files. And then once you've added those files there, go to Qdabra rules and go to the finished loading node. And here I've added a rule that activates those resource files by using the load resource command. The load resource command.
Great question, Brock. Thanks for bringing that up.
So once you're done adding these commands, you can now upload your form to FormsViewer and yeah, see how the overlay technique works.
Yay. You never know what you're going to have in the day, but you have to have some yay. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. I'm going to just switch. Kirby, way to go. Great job on the demos. Really, your presentation style is just superb. And it's Friday, and that's it. You're done. So unless people have questions for Kirby, I hope you get some sleep soon. And is Joanne here? Joanne's up next. Joanne, are you still here?
Yes, yeah. I'm here, Patrick.
So go to bed, Kirby. Get out of here. And we're going to switch to my screen quickly, and I'm just going to do a quick recap of this technique that Kirby has so amazingly demoed for us. Let me know when you can see my screen here.
Yep, you can see your screen, Patrick.
I'm still trying to get it to work, thanks. So quick summary on the prompts and overlays, and we'll talk about image scaling in a second. We just have one slide summarizing today, which is fine. But just to give you a quick summary, you're going to build your prompt command using the command builder, as Kirby showed, and you're going to specify title, text, and type. And of course, you can copy the command into the action, the actual value there when you have the rule action. When you set that value for the rules command, you just paste in that command. Or if you have some kind of a dynamic field that you want to add, like you saw with the second part of the demo there where Kirby added the form name, you can go into the FX button and you can add concat around your command and make sure you have double quotes or single quotes around the section that is static, and then you have comma after that. Insert the field that you want to put in there, another comma, and then another quote, and then the rest of it. So that's the prompt stuff. For overlays definitely much better looking technique, much more powerful because, as Brog mentioned in chat, you can, actually not in chat, but audibly, he mentioned that you could use it to fill out fields in your form, which is a very unique, creative way of extending that feature, which we even haven't thought of very much. But you're going to add the overlay. It does require a little more, what do you call it, dicing skills. If you're a cook, you have to cut vegetables, right? Well, it's like those chefs that you see that can cut the vegetables really quickly. I mean, it's a little bit of a sharp knife, so be careful. You might cut yourself. And you just have to dive into that XSL and make those two changes that Kirby mentioned. To make it easy, you want to do two things. You want to add that calculated value / overlay section into your view. You also want to make sure those two buttons have IDs that are easy to find. So what Kirby showed was that when you click on those two buttons, the magnifying glass for the search and the X in each one of the overlays, there's an ID for those buttons, and the ID, actually there's IDs for the magnifying glass and for the date picture button. And those IDs start with overlay _ so that it's easy to find the search button and the date filter example. And that's important because you're going to need to add two things into your XSL. You're going to have to add the divs, the two divs around the overlay section. So the overlay and the overlay section divs. Those are HTML div sections. And then you're going to have to add an on-click handler for those buttons by searching for those button IDs and then adding the on-click handler like you saw. So it's slightly more complex, but I think that the results are worth it. And Joanne, you are on for our final demo. We're going to skip the break since we had the outage there, and we're just going to dive into the last and final demo. And Joanne, I'm going to make you presenter. There you go. Questions here? Yeah, I think that's it. Great.
All right, so I'm going to demo Lab 3, and Lab 3 is about the AlterImage command. And this is a command that we added in FormsViewer a while back. And the purpose is to allow the users to reduce the sizes of their file attachments, specifically image attachments. So in this expense report sample that we have, as you can see, we have a file control attachments here that allows the user to attach their receipts. And well, now a user can just take a photo of their receipts using their camera phones, and today camera phones can take very high resolution photos, as you know. So users will go into this form and attach those high resolution photos, and it will put a lot of weight in the form, and it will take some time for the submit to happen, right? So we want to avoid that by giving them option to reduce the sizes of those images that they attach. So I'm just going to demo how that works. So just filling out the expense report here. Yeah, I can type correctly, right? Okay. So as my sample receipt here, just want to show you the size of my sample receipt. I don't have an actual receipt, but this is just a sample. So file info, just showing you that the dimension for the pixel here is 6,000 plus by 6,000 plus pixels, and the size is 2.6 megabytes. So we want to reduce that, and just attaching it here. And click submit. So when I click submit, it will display this overlay pop-up. It's using the same technique, the overlay technique that Kirby just showed you a while ago. And here I'm given the option to select which size I want for my attachment. So I would say select this size, 640 by 480 dimension. And there's also another prompt that you saw in lab 1, which is using the prompt command in QRules. So it's just asking or saying a warning that all our receipt attachments, if I attach several receipts, then it will be resized to medium size. So would you like to proceed? I'd say yes to that. And it's now making that so really fast. Okay, so for now, I turned off the generate PDF stuff because we don't need that for this demo. I just want to show you that my receipt attachment should be in here. Oops.
Where did it go, Jan?
I hope I did use the correct form, or maybe I was using my test form.
One thing to point out here for people is that if your images are smaller than the resize amount, it will actually bump them up if you're just doing it to all of them. You know, it'd be kind of nice if we had a way to identify.
Oh, sorry.
Did you find it? No.
Sorry, it's already August 17th, so it's in a different folder because it's past 12 a.m. my time. I'm so sorry, I got confused.
That's fine. That's fine. Sorry, I'm just trying to fill in the gap here.
I'm so sorry. So it did work. It's in a different folder. I was just prepared and I was refreshing the same folder. So this is that PNG file. So let's download that. Oh, I thought I okay. Save that. And this is the one we just saved. And let's look for the file info. There you go. The dimension is changed now to 640 by 643 pixels. And the size is reduced also to very small, just KB size.
How much was it before? I didn't catch the
It
previous.
is 2.6.
Okay, I got it.
2.6
Oh,
megabytes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. That is high def.
Yeah. Really high definition photo, just my sample one. So should I switch now to my, I want to walk through them to the lab. So this is the document for lab 3, and in order to do the same, you need to open the starter form that we provided you and open that in design mode. Oh, see, I've already opened that earlier. So for the purpose of this demo, I just made it simpler. I already pre-created a section for the overlay, and this is the technique that Kirby showed you. So for this form, as you can see, you saw that overlay with the option to resize the image, right? So this is where we're going to put that. We're going to insert a table, and then just label this section to resize. Making it a lot bigger. Then add a button, just a regular button will do. And right click on properties, it says here, okay. And then add some labels to that. Make the width to 100%. You'll get something like this. And I normally would put some shading to make it look better in the view. Okay, and okay, so that's my first button. I will copy that and make 4 copies, and then just put the other labels for the other sizes, right? So it's all in the doc. You can, I'm just very familiar to it, so maybe it will take you some time to for this steps.
Is there any reason we're on the 1024 one versus the other ones?
Sorry,
Oh yeah,
this
just
1024
wondering.
size.
Yeah, there's a slight inconsistency. You have parentheses for large, but not for medium. Is there a reason for that?
I'm not sure. I think this is the one.
And 24, but you don't have parentheses on small or medium. That's just a formatting issue, right? You can just take those out, right?
Yeah. Parentheses. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. There you go. Yeah. Just typo. So after you added the button, you will add a rule to the button called set width, and we're setting the width in a secondary data source. Here under actions, you can find that in the starter form, and this is the width, the attribute under the alter image. Select that, and then we will provide a value for the size. Then add another action rule that closes the form once it's already done submitting. Oh, okay, sorry. Close, okay. Close the form. All right. So copy that, or copy all rules. I just click that and I paste it to each one of these buttons, and I change the size to correspond to the size of the button. So okay, and for the actual size, we're not reducing it, but just giving the option to proceed to submit. And we're triggering the submit node to go, because that's where all
Submit for the other ones too, right?
Yeah. Let me show you here. So if the width has a value, it will detect this. Yeah. So it stops if it's blank, but if it's not, then it proceeds to these rules. If prompt is first, we saw that warning before, so that's the prompt command here. And then if we select no, then it will stop. But since we selected yes, it will proceed, and then it will run the AlterImage rules in the AlterImage node here on top of it. So let's look at that. So it just stops it if it's blank. This is just a standard way of centralizing our rules here. You can take a moment or time to review them, to learn them yourselves.
Where's the AlterImage command?
I'm going to do that here.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. I'm doing the actual demo for building the command.
Joanne, you're doing the whole lab.
Yeah. Sorry. Do we have time?
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
so
it's great to have you do the whole lab. That's awesome. You're adding extra value.
so just let you know, I went into the designer, Forms Designer, and I selected the AlterImage command. It's really just the one on top. Okay, so here we need the image XPath parameter, because we are modifying several images to reduce. So we're just click select and select the file. This is the file control for our image. So select that, and then select the width. It's dynamics coming from our secondary data source from actions, right? So this is the width that we need. Then we also need these parameter maintain proportions. So we need to set that to true. And that's it. Copy that to clipboard. Set a field's value, and resetting the Qdabra rules command. You might already be used to this for those who have Q rules or are used to using Q rules.
Quick question, Joanne. So let's say that they attach a file and not an image. Is the command smart enough not to mess with the file?
I haven't tried that yet. I was just testing it on images, but I think that Jimmy specifically created this for images. That's why he named it AlterImage. Yeah. But we can also, I guess we can also give it a shot for files.
It should be smart enough to check the format of the base64 attachment, because the attachments are going to be encoded in this base64 text, which doesn't have any special characters in it, so it can be transported in the XML payload in the file. And so there's a piece of the base64 at the beginning that identifies what kind of file it is, like if it's an image file or not. So hopefully he's checking that. It might be kind of interesting to test it at some point, but not today.
Yeah. Yeah, so well, I usually attach some receipts in PDF format too, so I want to try that as well. So, but for now, we're going to try image. So, okay, so click OK on that, and then I'm going to reset the width. And just resetting here. Okay, so back to our document here. So we're done with that. Okay. We've already added this rule, right? So we've added the reset. Okay, and then you're done. So this is the part where you create the overlay. Okay, let me just save this as my end form. Okay, and just like Kirby showed you, you need to put some IDs to your buttons so you can see them in the XSLT file, just like that. And also, I forgot to add that you need some kind of button here on top. Just add a picture button and select the PNG file. You need to, by the way, you need to add the PNG file as resource file in order for you to select an icon for your picture button. So I also want to create an ID for this, like that. And what else did I miss? A formatting rule that hides this section if this value in our form logic is not equal to resize. Okay, then hide it. Because when we click submit, what happens is it finds if the files, any occurrence of files is not blank, meaning the user at least have attached an image or file, then the overlay section is be set to resize. Okay, so then if it's resized, it will show this pop-up overlay. All right, so let me just publish this. You need to do the same, just publish it as export the files. Okay, this is my view, edit that. And again, look for the overlay calculated value. And here I have mode 71. And I will just find it, the div for that. Is this one, right? This one. So I have some shortcuts here. So. Okay, and put that inside. Then you can remove this, I think. And it's not right. Okay, that's right. Okay, the two IDs for the overlay sections, and then the mode for your div. Right. Okay. So save that. Oops. I got it open. Let me close that and resave this and open the manifest. Right click on it, click on design. Okay, and save this as your end form. Okay, end form. All right, so hope I didn't miss anything, but let's try it. I'll go to my test template. Don't want to overwrite my actual demo form. Okay, so this is the line. And update. Okay. And let's try to open that.
I love splash screens.
You lost the, sorry?
I love splash screens.
Cool. All right. Just entering some text here. Oh, then attaching our receipt, our large receipt here. And entering the cell amount. I hope it works. Okay, there you go. So what size do you want now?
You know it's real to run because we removed the parentheses from large.
Large, okay. Large. Okay, let's try that.
I'm saying you know it's real because we removed the parentheses from large.
Okay. So, okay, that's my, it's really bad. I'm in the right folder now.
Way to go. You got it to work the first time you uploaded it.
And let's open this one. Okay. Let's see, the dimension should be the size for our large size. There you go.
Way to go. That was amazing. Okay, let's ask you for feedback. Chris, I muted you. I saw that your mic was open, so I just figured I'd mute you just in case you had some strange jazz musicians start to play jazz in the background. But I will unmute you now so we can do a quick comment on today's labs. Way to go, Joanne. Great demo. And I think we finished day 4 with the final demo, and unlike the other demos, which were a little bit abbreviated because of time, I think Joanne just went through the whole lab for you. So I'm going to share out my screen, and we'll do a quick recap here. Nice job. Way to end the day, Joanne. No errors. Yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yes.
Okay, so image scaling is important because if people are taking photos on their cell phones, smartphones, or their tablets, those images will be large, and you want to scale them down so that it doesn't take up a tremendous amount of bandwidth if they're on a mobile network, a cell network, and they're uploading the photos. Like I mentioned earlier, if you have a small image that you attach and you resize it large, it will pixelate it. So if you have a really small 100 by 100 square image and you change the size to 640 by 480, it will bump that image up. So just keep that in mind. We don't currently have a way to identify the dimensions of an image. That's a feature that we'll be adding in the future. Some of the smartphones actually have that feature. They'll, like when you try to email a really big image, it will display the actual dimensions of the image and say, would you like to change it? We don't have that yet in image scaling, but the command is still super useful because it allows you to shrink everything down from actual size to something like 1024. And I recommend 1024 as opposed to 640 because if you're doing optical character recognition, like let's say you have a receipt and you want to send that to one of these smart AI services that will automatically analyze the image and tell you what it's about. Like Google. Google has an image API. We've done the webinar with the Google optical character recognition, the OCR. We've done that 2 or 3 times over the last 2 or 3 years. If you're interested in that technique, you can download the package for free. Google's image API is free, I think up to 1,000 images a month or something. It's ridiculously inexpensive. And you can actually convert that image into text that you can search on. So if you're doing that, if you're doing OCR for images, don't go lower than 1024. Otherwise, you can go lower if you want to make thumbnails or whatever. You know, take people's images of their faces and scrunch them down. You can do that. They might not be happy about it, but make sure you keep the aspect ratio set true, because you don't want to warp them in time or horizontally. Okay, so that's it for image scaling. So we're done with the labs. We're done with day 4. Questions for us. Let's quickly go around the table here, the virtual table. Brock, do you have any questions?
I don't.
Great. Do you have any takeaways for the day?
I have a few new skills that I'm excited to put into play.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Caroline, you're up next. Any questions or takeaways?
I've played around with that overlay technique before, and I love it. And I'm excited to use the image technique as well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that somebody has knife dicing skills. I was trying to use a good metaphor. I don't know if that was a good one or not, but thanks for, I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you for being here. Chris Miller, we had Chris Forrest join us for a moment there. I don't know if he's in here yet or not, but Chris, do you have any, Chris Miller, do you have any takeaways or comments or feedback or questions for today?
No, you know, I've used the overlay in one of our recent forums, and you know, it worked well, and you know, I always like to, like I said, if you don't use it, you lose it. So reinforcement is always good. So, you know, going back to these labs and going through them one more time just, you know, solidifies how to get it done, and then you don't stumble through it again, you know, 3 months from now.
And we did show some new stuff in this course this week, right? We had like 4 or 5 new things. So.
Yeah, I unfortunately couldn't stay the whole day yesterday, so I missed some of that. I know some of yesterday was kind of repeat as well, but you know, it's stuff that I watched in webinars, but I haven't really gotten to test, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, we got the video, so you have that to reference, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions you have. But I'm really glad that you also have the overlay working from before. That's awesome. Lynn, thanks for showing up on day 4. Do you have any questions or takeaways for this? I know we had a lot of content this week. Hopefully, we'll be sending everything out, a consolidated package, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, all of the labs and all of the videos, links in one email sometime later today. Maybe it'll be Monday, depending on how fast the video gets processed. The videos, and we have 2 videos today. But did you have any comments or feedback on today? Just, Lynn, you're still muted. You might be busy. So I'm going to switch to Shane. Shane, what about you?
I'm really excited to use the overlay in some forms that I'm working on, and I didn't get I wasn't here Wednesday or yesterday, so I've got to go back through all those labs and take a look at everything. But from what I've seen, I'm really super excited about the overlay thing.
Great to hear. Shri.
Yeah, I think the top takeaway is definitely the overlay feature. Whenever I do ASP.NET applications, I've always been thinking, I mean, why can't we do this in InfoPath when we have these pop-ups and stuff like that? But then I think I'll be using more of these going forward. And though I do have a question regarding the alter image. I mean, is this only for images or can it be done for files as well? I mean, I know this is a resizing thing, but like for files, I mean, that we have the SharePoint limitation and stuff. I mean,
Right.
to kind of give
Well,
a direct prompt for them to
yeah.
resize or
You
something
can
like that.
actually, I think there is a way to determine the total size. You can't determine the dimensionality, obviously. For an image, we don't have that feature in yet, you know, the X and the Y coordinates, but you can tell how big it is, I believe.
Yeah,
You can
not
just,
the image. I mean, like if it's a PDF, like an
right.
attachment or something like
Yeah,
that.
so you can tell if it's big. So you can actually look at the string length. So you can use the string length command, I believe, to maybe Joanne, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Have you ever done this, Joanne? Have you ever used the string length command?
Yeah, I think we've used that for some of our forms.
Do you want to try it real quick on the image and just show what the string length is before and after? No, I want to know. Let's do it. But you've got your form right open there, so why don't we just add like a little, like in the overlay? Why don't you just, just at the top of the overlay, just put the string length for the. Well, it's all the files, though. That's the problem. Yeah, we have to put it in the table probably. We can just do it for the first one. But yeah, so Shri, we'll skip that today. But I'm pretty sure that using the string-length command on the file, because it's a base 64 string, it will return back a big number, right? Which you'll have to use as your proxy for the is it too big or not? And then you can just compare that number, because basically it's going to be blown up between 2 and 3 times the actual size. So if you have a 1 megabyte PDF file that you're attaching, the base 64 string length will be somewhere between 2 and 3 times larger, because when it converts it to base 64, it does expand it in size, which is not good. But it has to do that because the binary format doesn't work in the XML. So what you just keep that in mind. And I think that if we look at, there is some online references probably. If you search, if you Google, you know, how much does base 64 increase my file size, there will be a calculation there. I think it's pretty specific. And then just factor that in when you have your string length command. If you want to not have them submit anything that's more than 10 megabytes because of if there's a limitation in IAS, I think in general, I think the default limitation is a 10 megabyte attachment. I might be wrong. It might be different in SharePoint Online, but if you're on-prem, the default IAS attachment limit is, I think it's 10 megs. So you probably want to then add up all of the strings for all the files and make sure it was less than that. And if it was greater than that, you could put up a validation like you saw yesterday. You could validate it and say, it's too large, please reduce the size, right?
Okay, yeah, okay.
So yeah, string length is what you want there. Very good question. I think that's the, along with Brock's comment about the using overlays for filling in data, which is a unique idea, which we haven't even thought of, I don't think. I mean, I think that's a great question. Did you have any other comments or questions?
Thank you. No, none for now, yeah.
Well, I hope the class has been helpful this week. We are going to do this again sometime later this year. We're shipping 4.2, which has a number of quick updates, and we're going to provide a way to generate PDFs without having to pop them up in a new tab in the browser. Some people have asked for that. We also have a couple other things we're doing. We'll be sending out an email to all of you in a few weeks, hopefully by the first week in September, with the 4.2 update. And if you're online, you'll automatically see it. If you want to update your on-prem bits, it's literally a 5 to 10 minute operation. So do let us know if you want us to help with that. Jimmy will be Jimmy and Joanne will be uploading the latest bits to InfoPath Dev for on-prem users. And if you're, like I said, if you're online, you'll get them automatically. The training is probably going to be in October or December. I'm guessing that there's a 60 to 70% likelihood that we'll do it because there's going to be the Canvas features that we're adding. And we're busy working on those, the ability to change the design of your form without using InfoPath Designer. This is a huge feature that we're trying to do to finish the functional parity or feature parity with the InfoPath Designer. It is our #1 focus, and we are committed to getting that done this year or very soon thereafter. It may fall into January or February. We're working hard, and we have a schedule, but it might slip a little bit. But it's not going to slip again like it did last year. Last year we just got too busy with other features, but this year, we're absolutely committed to focusing on that feature for the end of the year. So I want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you for being a FormsViewer customer. We look forward to serving you in the future. And once again, don't forget, the class will always be free for you. So we'll send out a class invite in October or December if we do it. Otherwise, you can definitely expect to see it again in January. But I do think we'll get another class in at the end of the year. It may not have as much new content as this class had, but our goal will be to probably do another quick class in October. We're seeing an uptick in adoption, and there's a lot of interest out there in training. So anyway, thanks so much. Great to have you here. Thanks, Joanne and Kirby and Don and Mel for all the work they did into this class. It was really thanks to them that we were able to deliver this week. And have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.